2025 has all around been a pretty good year for anime, both in terms of new series and sequels. And hopefully, at the very least, me talking about some of these shows will get you interested in them if you haven't heard of them before or were hesitating to try them out. Without any further ado, here are my top 10 anime of 2025. Normally, when a show tries to depict the apocalypse, it is naturally very destructive and devastating and dystopian and sad. And because of that, on the handful of occasions that anime have decided to portray it differently to show there is something still valuable, still beautiful about a world that has ended, it always stands out to me. And so this year's Apocalypse Hotel ended up becoming a show I was very fond of. Because yes, it does make it very clear. The apocalypse is not a good thing. It is sad what has happened to humanity as this virus raged and forced them off the planet. But the robots that remain have been able to still carve out a very happy life for themselves. It may take a few hundred years, but they've been able to make this hotel that appeals to various alien creatures. And ultimately, the series, by way of its over-the-top comedy and its ability to show how beautiful the world can still be and how heartwarming it can be, manages to take what should be a very dark and depressing setting and make it one that is a lot more nuanced and interesting. This show does a remarkable job playing with tones, and because of that, if you did pass up on it while it was airing, I definitely recommend you give it a shot. It is definitely a lot more than initially meets the eye. When it was announced that the creatives behind Non Non Biyori were doing a new series, I originally expected it to be a Iyashikei, just like Non Non Biyori, and Non Non Biyori is my favorite Iyashikei, so my expectations were decently high for Food for the Soul. That being said, this show really is not much of an Iyashikei. Every now and then you will get those vibes in a couple episodes here and there when the characters are out in nature doing things, but mostly this is a more traditional slice of life, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because these characters are very charming, they work well together as a group, and there is notable growth for our main character Mako as she comes out of her shell and becomes much more sociable by way of joining this club and making these friends. And of course, any anime about cooking worth its salt will, in fact, have very delectable, very well animated cooking scenes, and this show is no exception. This series was an absolute treat to watch every week, and it didn't hurt that this show has easily the best ED of the entire year. If you're at all wondering if you should watch this series, go look up the ED and tell me that you don't want to watch it after seeing that. So while it may not have been the Iyashikei I may have initially hoped it to be, this is still a very solid slice of life that nevertheless should improve your mood and also probably make you a little bit hungry. My Hero Academia has definitely had its ups and downs over the 10 years that it has been running. There are some seasons that I have absolutely adored and other seasons that I can barely sit through. But we're not talking about My Hero Academia. We're actually talking about its spin-off, My Hero Academia Vigilantes, a show that really surprised me because I did not have high expectations for this when it was announced. I expected it to be somewhat dull and boring and reflect a lot of the negative qualities that the main show has developed over its run. And to my pleasant surprise, the show actually reminded me of a lot of the qualities that My Hero Academia originally had that made me like it so much when it first started. The passion of the characters, their heart. It's a very simple thing, but it's also difficult for a show to accurately capture. And this spin-off has done what My Hero Academia proper has not been able to do since its earliest seasons. I also appreciate that it shows that there is a reason why these characters would do what they do, why vigilantes would have a place, because a lot of the big name heroes really do not have the time to deal with lower level crimes. But it also is clear that yes, there is a problem with unregulated heroes just doing whatever they want. So I think it does take a fairly balanced approach to it. I also think the smaller cast of characters really lends itself well to this series by giving them each more focus and more backstory and helping them all stand out in their own way compared to a lot of the characters of Class 1A in the main show. So if you skipped this when it first came out, give it a watch because I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected, and I would think many people who were hesitant on it will also get more out of it than they initially thought. Key anime have long been a favorite of mine, and to hear that a new adaptation of one of their more recent visual novels, Summer Pockets, was finally coming out definitely brought a smile to my face, and I'm happy that the show ultimately did not disappoint. It does a very good job of capturing atmosphere and really does evoke a lot of the emotions that I wanted to feel again that shows like Canon and Clannad gave me when I first watched them way back when. While I don't think the show is on the level of those two shows, and certainly does have its weaker moments and arcs, ultimately it does end very well, because this will definitely make you feel something for these characters and the struggles that they go through. If you, like me, were longing for many years to feel the same thing that other key shows made you feel, you owe it to yourself to check out Summer Pockets. Spy Family has long been a show that I've enjoyed quite a bit. I think it's been very consistent over its run, and now that we're on its third season, I think it has continued that. In fact, I really appreciate that the show has gone into the backstory of Lloyd, which we've been waiting to see for quite a long time. The season is not done at the time of me recording this, so I guess it could really screw things up in the last few episodes, but I don't really expect it to. Ultimately, I think most people have probably already watched Spy Family and developed an opinion on it because it was one of the biggest shows to come out in the last few years. But if for whatever reason you haven't, yeah, check it out. What are you doing? This year was ultimately a very good year for Iyashikei. Even if Food for the Soul didn't turn out to be one exactly, we've had plenty of other ones come out this year, to the point where I would say that yes, 2025 probably could be called the year of Iyashikei. One such example is Zatsu-Tabi, That's Journey, a show that really does encapsulate everything I love about this subgenre. The relaxing atmosphere, the beautiful backgrounds and visuals, traveling all over, while also nevertheless making sure that its main character, Chika, does go through some very noticeable, tangible, meaningful growth over the course of the show. And it's something that it really did not need to do, but I appreciate all the more for the fact that it did. This is a lot of fun, and I do really like the cast of characters overall and their dynamic, the way they bounce off each other, their dialogue. If you're somebody who appreciates banter, I think you will get a lot out of some of these episodes. And ultimately, if you're a fan of Iyashikei, you need to check this out. It is definitely a journey worth taking. Similarly, we have another Iyashikei, one that may not necessarily seem like one on the surface, but this is the TV season for Soroiro Utility. And I say that because it did initially have a short OVA a few years back, but now it finally has a full 12 episodes, and it was really enjoyable. This is also a sports anime about golf, but by having the sport be something that is so ingrained in the idea of being outside and looking at all these different courses, it does really lend itself well to those atmospheric nature vibes that Iyashikei has come to be known for. This show really is beautiful when it wants to be. And on top of that, I think it does actually do a good job of making golf interesting. It helps that these characters are very distinctly not competitive golf players. This isn't like a shonen anime where the characters are competing in tournaments. In fact, one of the characters, Haruka, used to be a competitive golfer and ultimately walked away from that because she did not like the stress and the competition, and she just wanted to golf for her own enjoyment. So the fact that you have these characters enjoying this sport, you have Minami trying to find some sort of hobby that makes her happy, and seeing her grow little by little. Of course, she doesn't become an expert golfer by the end, but seeing her growth materialize over the course of the series and seeing her fall in love with this activity, something that she initially did mostly because she wanted to find something to do other than play video games, is a treat to watch. I think the three main characters all play off each other well, all have very distinctive personalities, and I do like that the show will focus on the other things that they do. Ayaka has her streaming, and there's a whole episode dedicated to her streaming and trying to get out of a funk with that. This isn't just all golf all the time. This is ultimately about these characters and their developing friendship. Golf is just the vehicle through which we can achieve that, and also, again, allow us to experience these atmospheric settings. So as both a sports anime and an Iyashikei, I think it succeeds wholeheartedly. Also, once again, a absolutely fantastic ED, one of the best of the year. Go listen to that ED and tell me you don't want to watch this series. Whether you're a fan of Iyashikei, slice of life, or sports, you should try this show out. I think it will give you a lot more than you might initially be expecting. Grand Blue returned for its long-awaited second season, and it definitely did deliver. Yes, the animation quality probably was not as good as it should have been. There were definitely instances where, yes, this probably doesn't look as consistently good as Season 1 did, but the comedy was definitely just as good as Season 1. This show is genuinely one of the funniest anime I have ever seen. And while, yes, comedy may be subjective, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who couldn't find some level of enjoyment in watching these characters interact and do crazy things. And the show isn't just all comedy all the time. There are those moments of depth with these characters who you would not initially expect to show depth, that give you more to this show than meets the eye. It isn't just all comedy all the time. These characters are people, and they do have personalities beyond getting drunk all the time. It really is a lot of fun to watch, and it's one of those shows where, yeah, you're going to come for the comedy, but you're going to stay for those character moments. I'm very happy that season 3 is already confirmed for this show, and I hope that even more seasons are on the way. Season 2 of The Apothecary Diaries definitely lived up to the hype of Season 1, while also expanding the scope of this series with more characters, more political intrigue, more mysteries. Yes, you should have already watched this show, and yes, you should already be watching Season 2. This is one of the best anime to come out in the last few years, and you owe it to yourself to try it out. If you like palace intrigue, if you like the mystery, if you like the sort of feudal Chinese setting, even if it's not actually China, and ultimately, if you just like good characters, because Mao Mao is absolutely fantastic, and just being able to see her dissect these various mysteries and situations and play off the other characters is such a joy. Even if for nothing else, you should be watching this show for Mao Mao. And finally, my number 1 anime of the year, Dr. Stone, Science Future. We are still waiting on the final core, but the 2 that we have gotten have really been exceptional, especially the second core. I think that batch of 12 episodes is probably the best we have gotten in Dr. Stone ever. Some of the things that happen are really surprising, and a show being able to keep you on your toes this late into its run is always worth praising, but the way it's able to do it, the way it's able to surprise you and do things you genuinely would not be expecting unless you've already read the source material, that is incredibly remarkable. This show is definitely one of the best shonen anime to come out recently, and it's one that I wish more people talked about because, yes, it is not the battle action series that a lot of shonen are known for, but this show really does encapsulate so much of what is to love about shonen, while also charting its own course and doing its own thing, ultimately giving you this faith in humanity that I think now, more than ever, is very important to witness and to hope for. I really hope this show can stick the landing in its last core, and if it does, it will definitely have a good chance of being my favorite anime of 2026, but we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your top 10 anime of the year are, and of course, if your favorite anime were not listed here, it is entirely possible I simply have not seen it, or that I still liked it, but it just didn't make it into the top 10. And if any of these shows are ones you have not heard of and have not seen, I implore you to give them a chance. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Until next time, take care everyone, have a great new year, and look forward to the next video.